Will she, won't she? That's a question that the middle class asks every time the finance minister presents the union budget. All eyes are on one thing that we all wait with bated breath for: the income tax. As 23rd of July draws near, expectations from Nirmala Sitharaman's budget 2024 are reaching a fever pitch. These expectations include relief in income tax rates, particularly the basic exemption limit being increased from 3 to 5 lakh rupees, a potential hike in standard deduction, and an increase in Section 80C exemptions, if speculation is to be believed. Adjustments to tax slab rates might be on the cards as well. Now, a stark difference between the old and the new tax regimes has been the fact that the new tax regime has simplified tax slabs with rebate limit to 7 lakh rupees. With the Modi government being sworn in for a third straight term, there's hope that there would be a renewed focus on driving consumption and boosting the economy, while also facing the fiscal deficit challenge. So what are the expectations from Union Budget 2024 as far as the income tax, personal tax is concerned? And what are the challenges that lie in front of Modi 3.0? Let's try and understand this from my guests on the show. S Ravi, founder, Ravi Rajan and Company, and former chairperson BSE is joining us. I'm also joined by Prateek Bansal, senior tax lawyer. Good evening and namaskar to both of you. Gentlemen,
Namaskar.
Welcome to Mirror Now. Mr. Ravi Rajan, let me begin with you. What are your expectations? Do we see some sort of relief from the finance minister this time around for the Aam Aadmi Party, for the salaried class, for the taxpayers?
So, considering the fact that this budget will be a trend-setting budget for the next 5 years of the Modi 3 government, NDA 3 government, I think I foresee a lot of tax reforms, especially where it affects the middle class, and I see that happening. And I also see that the old regime may slowly be sort of extinguished, and the new regime will come in with more changes as we have. And the changes could be in terms of increasing the standard deduction, getting onto a different slab rate altogether, increasing the personal tax limit to a higher level. So I find that, and also some deductions will come in, which were available in the old regime, and which will also encourage savings, because see, the old regime encouraged a lot of savings, and also there was a assistance in terms of house interest on savings, interest on the housing loan that they paid. All that was there, and I think what they need to do is to have all this put into the new form of regime, because you see, by default the new form of regime actually comes in, if you file an income tax return. So I think they will slowly encourage all the assessees to go to the new regime. As far as the rates are concerned, I expect this time, because
which was what my next question was also, Mr. Ravi. Just the fact that perhaps the government's focus would be now on to encouraging people to shift to the new tax regime from the older one, because the adoption rate from the old to the new hasn't been as it was expected. So this time around, hopefully Nirmala Sitharaman would be encouraging that and therefore incentivizing the new tax regime.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, endorse your view, and I think she will do that primarily because by default also the regime, the new regime is what they expect, the government expects. And I think they will have to give some incentive in form of reduction of tax rates, increasing the exemption. All this will happen so as to encourage SSEs to move towards that. Because in the previous regime, there were too many deductions, but of course, and the difference between the two regimes is only 50,000. So why would anybody move to the new regime? So I think that is what the government would look at, because also from a assessor's point of view or a department, it's two type of returns that they are scrutinizing on. Though it's all AI driven, but also it makes administrative cost. So, and there's also this little bit of ambiguity that happens between in the mind of the SSE. So who are coming for the first time. So I think it is very important they migrate the whole thing by giving SOPs like you mentioned.
Okay. Okay, let me get in Pratik Bansal on this. Pratik, let's start with basic exemption and how there's speculation that that might be increased from 3 lakh with currently to 5 lakh. Interim budget didn't see any change in that, but of course in 2023 we had that change from 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs. Do you see that happening this time around, 3 to 5, as speculation is rife about it?
Yeah, so like we spoke about the old versus new tax regime, the government's focus is pretty clear that
Yeah.
they like she said during the interim budget also that their objective is to move towards Viksit Bharat, and they want to put more money into the hands of the taxpayers so that the spending capacity increases, and ultimately then it gives a boost to the economy.
Hmm.
So I think increasing the basic exemption limit from 3 to 5 is quite anticipated expectations from from this budget, and especially from the new tax regime perspective, because ultimately at some stage the government might want to just done away with this two sort of tax regimes, and might want to just switch all the taxpayers to the new tax regime only. And hence if it is critical that you increase the tax exemption limit from 3 to 5, because anyway the new regime does not have as many as deductions and exemptions as compared to the older regime. So I think that is a much speculated move which we might see in this budget.
And therefore, S. Ravi, can I also understand from you, it's always said that, if the basic exemption is changed, it will be benefiting not just people who come in that bracket, but the entire salaried class, the entire taxpayers, every slab that people come under. Could you simplify for us that?
So basic exemption, I'll just for everybody, I just want to simplify it to say that is the basic limit beyond which below which you don't have to pay any tax. Now, whether you are a salaried person, professional, business,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you don't have to pay any tax if you are falling within that bracket. Now, what is happening is that we also have the standard deduction of around 50,000. Now, the debate which is live at this point in time is that whether they will increase the basic exemption, or they will also sort of increase the standard deduction. Because now, why we might see the basic exemption increase, because it impacts the larger public at large, and the government's focus right now is
Yeah.
to benefit the common masses. So hence it is important that they increase the basic limit so as to sort of benefit the common public at large.
S. Ravi, the fact that tax rates right now range between 5 and 30%, and there's a lot of talk about how that 30% might, right now it's at 15 lakhs income, but that might change to perhaps 18 or 20 lakhs. Do you see that happening this time around at all?
Yeah, I would presume that, because first of all, the ability to earn has also increased. If you look at the last 2 years or 3 years, the ability to earn for the middle class has also increased. And it is imperative that we increase it to 18 or 20 lakhs, as you stated, because what will happen is uh, above 15%, it's a steep rate that happens. And 15 lakhs is nothing in this current scenario of economic growth, etc. So I think I would presume that the finance minister will be a little more generous here and raise that, and also put a new slab for that. That is what I presume, because this will encourage more earnings also. So, and more earnings is good for the country, and more spending will happen. So I think this is
Yeah.
very important from my view, from everybody's viewpoint.
Which is why I think, S. Ravi, the focus would be on driving consumption as well. But can I also understand from you the fact that focus is on consumption and therefore driving the economy and boosting the economy? How much of the post-COVID impact have we recovered from? We keep seeing reports of how India's economy has been growing at a pretty stable rate as compared to other economies across the world. But when we look at the recovery now, have we sort of, safely can we say that we've now recovered from that, or are there ripple effects and remnants still around?
So I would say that we have overcome the COVID effect totally in more than many ways. And let us look at even the banks, how they have bounced back. The percentile NPS which has come down, the capitalization that happened pre-COVID and around COVID, that has helped the banks. See the NPS which were restructured, what has happened? All restructuring, there is no further failure to that. So every parameter in the banking sector is looking very good. And this is a reflection of how quickly we have recovered from the post-COVID. And you see the GST collection also. So every aspect, if you look at it, we have recovered well. I would say we have recovered far better. And all the SOPs that were given in the Atmanirbhar scheme, all that has been utilized properly by everybody, and we have moved forward. We have moved forward on that. So that is what I presume. And there are no headwinds at this point of time relating to COVID.
Okay. Okay, Prateek, one of the concerns has always been that those who pay income tax are a very less percentage. But the fact of the matter also is that the others are also paying GST now.
Yeah, so if you see the numbers, out of 140 crores of population, we have close to 3 crores of income tax taxpayers. And but surprisingly, if you notice, and as we were discussing about the after COVID effect, we have the income tax collection numbers. The personal income tax collection numbers are now coming at around 3.61 lakh crores as of 11th July for this financial year. Fiscal deficit is only at 3% of the target sort of segment for this financial year, which is around 16 lakh odd crores. Now, if you see these numbers, this definitely, we have recovered from the post-COVID effect, and the country is moving towards a better economy. And as far as the taxpayer population is concerned, I think the steps such as simplifying the tax regime, by moving to one simple new tax regime with lesser exemption and deductions. There was also one school of thought wherein, because most of our country is comprised of the salaried taxpayers. Now, they have only one source of revenue, which is the salary which they earn from their employer. So they can also make it simpler by doing whatever the TDS the employer is collecting, and then they are depositing it. They can obviously consider as if the employee has filed the return. So all these measures, I think, will have to be taken over a period of time, so that the number which we are talking about, that it is less than 3 crores, I think it will automatically increase.
Okay, S. Ravi, since we're talking about COVID and the post-COVID impact, let me also then ask you about whether we can expect some deductions in medical expenses and health insurance premiums. Do you see that happening, considering we've seen healthcare expense inflation post-COVID?
So about insurance, let us go and reflect on what IRDA has done. So it is looking at universal license. It is looking to expand insurance to all the aspects, everywhere, insurance everywhere. And I'm expecting a major insurance reform in this budget, which will cover most of the citizens, and by virtue of which, it can be only propagated if there are exemptions that are available, which is the medical expenses are very huge. If you look at minus government, the private sector, it's very huge. So in order to have that, it is important that medical expenses reimbursement becomes a very important aspect. So deduction will become a very important tool for the citizens, and it is going to be there. If insurance has to be pan India, it has to be wider. It has to go to rural India. Then I think this deduction is very important, and I am expecting this very surely in this budget, because insurance is one push the government wants, because there are more than 60 odd, 65 odd insurance companies working in India. And I think with a lot of FDI guidelines that have come in, a lot of people, foreigners having foreign investments having been in the sector, I think they will deepen this. And I am very sure they will put this deduction in place.
Also, just the fact, Pratik, that one of the most impacted segments from this whole healthcare sector are the senior citizens. Do we expect, exemptions to increase for them in this union budget?
So, health insurance premium, if you see the deduction under Section 80D, is for 25,000 is for the individual people, and it is 50,000 for the senior citizens who are above 60 years of age. So we are definitely anticipating that that 50,000 limit should be increased to 1 lakh. Considering the cost of living, the inflation, the medical sort of facility, the rise in the prices of the medical facilities. So definitely we are looking forward to that exemption limit being increased.
Okay, let's also shift our focus now to the 80C exemptions, our PPFs and FDs and mutual funds investments, S Ravi. And, so far the current limit, of course, is 1.5 lakhs. Do you see that being carried forward to the new tax regime or some changes made in the current one?
So I see that there will be a mix of the old regime and the new regime. And that is what is going to happen, because finally, as we said, it will all transgress into this new regime. So the exemptions will have to be increased so that there is an incentive for the SSEs to go into the new regime. And I feel that 1.5 lakhs exemption will certainly go to 2 or 2.25. That's what it's my personal thing. Plus, we have to understand one more thing. There is a new NPS scheme that has to be modified.
Yeah.
There is NPS which has to be modified.
Yes.
So NPS also, in order to people to migrate to the NPS, with of course some changes in the old scheme, you will have to give deductions, many other deductions for the pensioners also. And the third thing, because in the NPS scheme, the senior citizens and their spouses won't get that benefit of, especially on the death of the spouse. So I think it is important for the government to look at senior citizens by giving tax breaks, and that is what is going to be the key.
Okay, but Pratik, does it make sense at all to carry forward the 80C exemptions, considering you don't want all the paperwork and all of that coming in the new tax regime? Would you want to take that forward at all?
Yeah, so my personal sort of opinion would be that there has to be a balance between these exemptions and the new tax regime. Because one thing we need to understand, Shreya, that the government is clear that they want a simplified structure. Now, right now, we are struggling with so many different exemptions, deductions, and all those auditing, etc. They don't want to get into that situation. If they increase the basic limit, let's say to 5 lakhs or 7.5 lakhs, then automatically all these things might go away, because these 80C exemptions are largely benefiting the middle class or the lower income group. So, if you increase that basic limit, then they may not sort of revisit this 1.5 lakhs limit, and they may sort of stick to that, so that they make the new regime more attractive, and people start shifting towards the more new regime. Because now let's talk about the numbers. If you see, if somebody has a gross income of, let's say, 15.5 lakhs per annum, and they have a total 80C exemption of, let's say, around 3.75 lakhs, which is the capping in the new sort of regime, they will definitely want to go under the old regime. Because what is happening is that the HRA exemption, let's say, the cost of living is increasing, the rentals are increasing. So they would want to claim a higher sort of HRA exemption. Similarly, the investment instruments, the life insurance premium, the interest rate on the housing property, all these things are rising. They would definitely want to sort of claim all these exemptions, let's say 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 7 lakhs, whatever it is. So they will never then move to the new regime. And we will be then, sort of struggling with these two parallel structures, which the government definitely wants to avoid. So hence, they might consider making the changes in the new regime itself, so that by increasing the basic limit or by increasing the standard deduction, etc., so that this entire sort of long list of exemptions and finding out the sections so as to claim their end up, that they might go away.
Okay. S. Ravi, let me ask you my last question then before I wrap up. Of course, this is not a standalone sector, personal tax, this field. It has influences from outside. What sectors do you think this time around will have a major impact on how the government moves forward with personal tax?
So, what sectors means, for example, from the personal taxation, I think education is one thing that the government will look at. That's the first and foremost. Health is another thing that they will look at. And the third is maybe they will promote investment and pension, because that is the key. Pension saving is going to be the key. And with the longevity of citizens increasing, saving is also an important part of the thing. So I think these three, education is very important, insurance, medical insurance, and also finally look at pension. These will be three things that the government would look as far as personal taxation is concerned.
Okay, Prateek, what would your top three be?
So, Shreya, considering the coalition government we are in right now, their priority might be the farmers and the women as well. So, apart from sort of giving sops to, let's say, industries and the businesses, they might also come up with the schemes favoring the farmers and the women, considering also the state elections, let's say in Maharashtra.
Okay.
So, that is something also which can be on their priority list.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it there. Let's see when Nirmala Sitharaman, the Finance Minister of India, does open her Bahi Khata on 23rd of July, what really comes of it. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much to S. Ravi and Prateek Bansal for joining us, gentlemen, and sharing your perspective on what the Aam Aadmi can expect this time around from the Union Budget 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you.